They went and shot up this family house. They wiped out his whole family. Baby mama, granny. Them is dead. Like, they went and did John's that same day. That people's dead behind that.
Holder's lawyer, Aaron Jansen, reported that his client was attacked by multiple individuals while he was waiting to be brought into court. One of his attackers had a razor, and the defendants had injuries to the back of his head. Holder was subsequently hospitalized.
Everybody says they did this to the family, and I'm not trying to hurt Sam's feeling or nothing like that, but like the same people that's mad, they didn't do no slide. Not Sam, I'm talking about the Cowboys and all.
Whispers in Hollywood's back alleys are louder than ever. Eric Holder's actions didn't just end a life. They sentenced his own loved ones to a prison of fear and isolation.
Eric Holder, he's like, yeah, it's crazy. Everything I love, he got pissed on and some more shit, spit on.
They were pissing and spitting on him in the bus?
Man, shit, hell yeah, squirting piss on his.
What did his family know? And when are they victims of circumstance or co-conspirators in the court of public opinion? Let's find out. The updates from prison are wild right now. Some fresh footage just dropped, and it looks like Nipsey Eric Holder is catching major heat. Behind bars, the streets don't play. And let's be real, prison payback that hits different when you're living by those rules. So look, bus was going crazy, shaking everybody up. Boom, boom, boom. Soon as they found out it was him. And then, they stopped the bus over on the freeway like, man, y'all better chill out, or else we going to take our back to the county. We all felt the shockwaves when Nipsey Hussle was off it, crushed the music world, his community, and his fans like a ton of bricks. But what's been going down with the dude who took his life, Eric Holder, man? Nobody saw this chaos coming. It's a straight up mess, and way more intense than anyone imagined. It's like watching karma unfold in real time. And let's just say the fallout goes way beyond the courtroom.
So look, bus was going crazy, shaking everybody up, boom, 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 as soon as they found out it was him. And then they stopped the bus over on the freeway. Like, man, y'all better chill out or else we finna take y'all back to the.
Eric Holder, the guy who got convicted for King Nippy, got hit with a massive 60 years in prison on paper. That's justice, right? But let's be real, his punishment started way before that sentence came down. Word on the street is there was a shootout targeting Eric's family with rumors of some heavy losses afterward. And get this, just being connected to Eric or visiting him might put you in serious danger. It's like NP's legacy has this invisible force of vengeance around it, making sure betrayal comes with a high price. As for Eric's family, they're reportedly doing everything possible to stay out of the crossfire and avoid more bloodshed. But inside prison, it's been a straight-up nightmare for him. People assumed Eric's gang ties might protect him. But no, not even close. Back in 2022, he got jumped by 2 inmates. And it wasn't your typical beatdown. They slashed him with a razor, left him unconscious, and he had to get 3 staples in his head. Dude was walking around with bruises all over his face. After that, folks like Mob James called it, and they weren't wrong, things behind bars are brutal.
60 years to life in prison. This coming here on this Wednesday out of Los Angeles. Of course, this is a...
Here's the wild part. Eric didn't even see it coming. Dude was just sitting in a holding cell with 13 other inmates, probably plotting his next move when bam, he gets attacked from behind. No warning, no words, just straight up chaos. His lawyer said the attackers didn't say a thing, they just went in on him. Why, nobody knows for sure. But you know how the streets work. Nipsey's name carries serious weight everywhere, even after that brutal attack. Eric showed up in court the next day with his head stapled up, looking completely wrecked. And let's be honest, it's hard to feel any sympathy for him, considering what he did. This is the same guy who coldly took Nipsey's life. What makes this whole thing hit even harder is knowing what Nip meant to his community. He wasn't just another rapper. He was a symbol of hope, bridge builder between the streets and the police. Even the LP respected him for trying to make a real difference. Eric didn't just take a life. He tore a hole in an entire community.
When he go to prison, what the you gonna do?
Well, he's gonna be in PC.
You can get touched in there too.
Nippy wasn't just a rapper. He was a leader. His influence was so huge that even President Obama spoke about the impact he had on the world. Think about it, after his death, gangs were coming together to talk about peace. That's how powerful NP's presence was. He literally made people rethink their entire approach to the streets. Eric Holder might have taken Nipsey's life, but he could never touch Nip's legacy. That's untouchable. It's something that'll live on forever. Even former inmates like Bravo the Bag Chaser have shared stories about how rough it's been for Eric behind bars. During one transfer, things got so brutal, it just showed how deep this situation runs. You'll never guess who was on that bus swing, who at Eric Holder, swear to God, everything I love he was. He was right there on the same bus. And it's crazy now, while some people are saying Eric's getting exactly what he deserves, others are wondering if this is the beginning of the end for him. Not because of parole, but because revenge and justice are colliding in a way that's way more dangerous. Nipsey's impact was massive. He was loved, respected, and admired, not just in his neighborhood, but across the whole rap game. Eric probably had no idea just how far Nipsey's influence stretched, or how deep people would go to honor his memory. But here's the thing, when Eric Holder pulled that trigger, it wasn't just a crime. It was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Rumors blew up like wildfire about payback, and let's just say it wasn't looking good for Eric Holder or his family. Word on the block, his family might have literally gotten caught in the crossfire. Some unverified reports claim that at least 2 of Eric's relatives were either taken out or shot in retaliation for Nippy. Official receipts nowhere to be found, but you know how the streets operate. They don't need facts to keep the rumor mill spinning. Then things got even spisher when Tarek Nash, the LA native who always has a hot take, jumped in. Tarek didn't just call Eric a snitch. He went all in, accusing him of being tied to other crimes. And as if that wasn't enough, Tarek even dropped a photo that he claimed was linked to the death of one of Eric's relatives.
You'll never guess who was on that bus with me.
Who?
Eric Holder. Swear to God. On everything I love. He was right there on the same bus. And
while all this drama was popping off, the LAPD was scrambling, ramping up patrols like crazy. But let's be real, how do you stop a tidal wave of whispers? And if that wasn't messy enough, wild theories started flying around suggesting Eric didn't act alone. Some people claimed he was just a pawn in a much bigger Messier game. Enter Big U. Yep, his name got dragged into the chaos too. If you didn't know, Big U used to be tight with Nippy. But things went south when Nip decided to go independent. That decision might have been the spark for a lot of behind-the-scenes tension now. Whether these theories hold any weight or not, one thing's for sure, the streets aren't forgetting. And the drama isn't dying down anytime soon.
Trying to make this gang-related. They're mad at the reporters. The reporters are talking about it was gang-related. We know it was deeper than that, man. Everybody out here know it was deeper than just gang.
Someone from the Rolling 60s gang hinted that the fallout between Nipsey Hussle and Big U might have played a role in the tragic events, adding another layer to the wild web of rumors. But let's keep it real. No amount of speculation changes the cold hard fact: Eric Holder pulled the trigger for a lot of people. That's the only thing that matters. Karma, however, wasn't done with Eric. During his trial, his time in jail turned into a nightmare. He was attacked again, this time by 2 inmates who left him with a razor slash on his head, a swollen face, and one eye busted so bad that the judge had to cancel court for the day. What's worse, Holder was supposed to be kept separate during transport, but somehow someone dropped the ball big time.
Nah, man, listen, Nip didn't never go against the gang, boy. Don't believe that. Nip was always 100, man. Nip was my loved one.
All of this ties back to that tragic day in 20119, when Eric Holder walked up to Nipsey Hussle outside the Marathon clothing store and shot him 11 times. The moment was caught on camera, and the chilling footage showed Holder even kicking Nippy in the head after he was down. That clip didn't just shock law, it shook the entire world. Nippy wasn't just another rapper. He was a force for change, a leader who bridged gaps and inspired communities. And Eric Holder, he ensured that the streets and the world would never forget him. But for all the wrong reasons. From the start, Eric's legal team had one mission: convince the jury that the crime wasn't premeditated. They argued it was a heat of passion situation, claiming Nippy accused Eric of being a snitch, an accusation that can ignite chaos in the streets. But here's the twist: Eric Holder and Nipsey Hussle weren't random strangers. They grew up in the same neighborhood and were both tied to the Rolling 60s Crips. This wasn't a cold, impersonal act. It was personal, and everything unraveled in the blink of an eye.
Defendant was reportedly jumped in his holding cell. Yeah, apparently Holder's lawyer, Aaron Jansen, reported that his client was attacked by multiple individuals while he was waiting to be brought.
Nee's close friend Herman Cowboy Douglas gave a chilling account of the events leading up to the shooting. According to Cowboy Nippy, casually mentioned a rumor that Eric Holder had been cooperating with the police, a serious accusation in their circles. At first, Eric seemed unfazed, brushing it off, but just 10 minutes later, the unthinkable happened. The world lost Nipsey Hussle. Forever a surprising figure in this tragic story was Eric's girlfriend, Brian Nicholson, who unintentionally became a key witness. Brian testified that she drove Eric to the plaza where Nipsey's Marathon clothing store was located. She overheard Eric confront Nippy asking, "Did you say I snitched?" What followed was chilling. Eric returned to the car, loaded his gun like it was nothing, and instructed Benita to circle the block. After parking in an alley, he casually ate his chili cheese fries as if nothing was amiss then. Without warning, he got out and walked away. Moments later, gunshots rang out. Eric ran back to the car, guns in hand, and shouted for her to drive. Benita, unaware of the gravity of the situation, complied. It wasn't until she saw the news that she realized the magnitude of what had just happened. That night, imagine knowing someone for just a month and being thrust into one of Ella's darkest moments. Nipsey Hussle's older brother, Black Sam, sat down with Big Boy for an emotional interview and shared a haunting detail about that fateful day. According to Black Sam, Nip's usual safety measures weren't in place. This lack of protection contributed to the vulnerability that led to the tragic events, leaving many to wonder what might have been if things had been different. By operating the Marathon store and eventually buying the lot on which it stood, Hussle offered a sense of hope for the historically dispossessed. He employed local designers and other people from the surrounding blocks. It was not only that Hussle endured intense hardships to triumph, but also that he refused to abandon the place that had nurtured his gifts. This desire to give back, this wealth of spirit, would hauntingly lead to his death in early 2019 when Eric Holder shot him in front of his Marathon store. He was later convicted. Hussle was only there that afternoon to give free clothing to an acquaintance recently released from prison and in dire need of assistance.
So he FaceTimed me and stuff like that. He was like, Nipsey just got I'm like, 6 I didn't.
According to court testimony, on that Sunday afternoon, Hussle arrived at the shopping plaza for an unannounced visit, as he often did, while catching up with friends and employees in the parking lot in front of his Marathon store. Hussle spent about half an hour signing autographs and posing for photos with fans. At the same time, a man Meister Holder was casually dating was driving him around the area just to hang out. As she testified, this woman, initially kept anonymous to protect her from threats and harassment, was identified at trial as Brian Nicholson. As they stopped to get something to eat, Miss Nicholson noticed Hussle outside the store and made a passing remark about his appearance. Mr. Holder, without indicating that he knew the rapper, approached him for a brief conversation after ordering chili cheese fries at a nearby burger place while Miss Nicholson waited in the car. The brief conversation between the two men was described as casual and low-key. According to witness testimony, during this exchange, Hussle mentioned to Mr. Holder that there were rumors circulating about him cooperating with law enforcement or snitching. Hussle encouraged Mr. Holder to get the paperwork to prove otherwise and clear up the rumors, as stated by John McKinney, the Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney. It just seemed like a regular conversation, Mr. McKinney told the jury, but obviously it wasn't. As the conversation between the men concluded, Miss Nicholson approached Hussle for a selfie, which she later posted to Facebook. She testified when asked if she sensed any impending conflict. Miss Nicholson stated, "No, I wasn't afraid at all." Upon returning to the car, Mr. Holder instructed her to pull into another nearby parking lot so he could eat his fries. She said, while there, she witnessed him loading a 9mm pistol. She testified after taking a few bites of his food, he walked back toward Hussle's store. Witnesses reported that Mr. Holder confronted the rapper and uttered "you're through" before opening fire with a gun in each hand, hitting Hussle at least 10 times and then kicking him twice in the Head, you got me Hussle, said according to the prosecutor, 2 other men, Carrie Lean and Sherryville, NA, were wounded by the gunfire. Sam explained that there was always someone armed at the door whenever Nipsey Hussle visited the Marathon store. But on that day, no one was on guard. Nippy casually dressed in shorts, not his usual alert self, and Eric's movements added to the eerie vibe. According to Sam, Eric first approached Nippy shirtless, almost as if he were scoping out the scene. Then he left and returned wearing a red shirt, a major red flag in their area. Sam suggested that Eric deliberately put on the red shirt to confuse onlookers and make his actions seem unrelated to local gang politics.
He was a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, business person, mentor, role model. He was a hero to many young people in the Crenshaw area.
Eric Holder's actions captured on video, including the harrowing moment when he kicked Nipsey in the head, shocked not just LA, but the entire world. Nipsey's death wasn't just a loss. It was a seismic shift that revealed the deep-seated issues plaguing the community. His story continues to resonate not just as a tragedy, but as a call to understand the complexities of loyalty, reputation, and violence in the streets. So here's how it went down. Eric Holder was sentenced to 60 years to life in prison after being found guilty of first degree for Nipsey Hussle. Death on July 6, 2022. The sentence was heavy, as it should be given the weight of what he did. However, Eric was also convicted on 2 counts of attempted voluntary manslaughter and possession of a firearm despite pleading not guilty. The jury wasn't buying his story when it came to Nippy. Interesting. They did clear him of attempted charges tied to the 2 men injured in the shooting. After sentencing, Eric's lawyer Aaron Jansen spoke out, expressing disappointment and announcing plans to appeal. He felt those accusations were a bit too much for Nipsey's family, especially his brother Sam. For them, it wasn't just about the legal side of things. Their focus was on the massive loss they experienced. Nippy wasn't just a musician. He was a leader, a brother, and a source of hope in a community that needed.
My understanding, old boy walked up with no shirt on first to check the scene because he know what's going on in that parking lot.
Miss Nicholson later agreed to immunity from prosecution in exchange for her testimony at trial. Mr. Holder was initially represented by Chris Darden, a lawyer perhaps best known for his role as one of the prosecutors in the 1995 trial of O.J. Simpson. However, Mr. Darden withdrew from the case shortly thereafter, citing death threats against his family. Instead, Mr. Holder was represented at trial by Mr. Jansen, the public defender, who did not dispute that Mr. Holder was the shooter, but argued instead that the case was overcharged in court. Mr. Jansen stated that Mr. Holder was so enraged over the allegations of snitching that he returned 9 minutes later without thinking and began shooting without premeditation. He argued that instead of first-degree premeditated murder, Mr. Holder should have been charged with voluntary manslaughter because he acted in the heat of passion. Mr. Jansen also emphasized that Mr. Holder had no intent to harm Mr. Lon and Mr. Villanueva, and therefore should not have been charged with attempted murder in their cases. Despite these arguments, Mr. Holder was ultimately convicted and faces life in prison in addition to being the agreed-upon motive in the shooting of Hussle. The concept of snitching and its significant influence in gang culture affected court testimony in the case. While multiple witnesses identified Mr. Holder as the shooter, others declined to provide detailed recollections of the episode on the stand, and furthermore, one witness failed to appear with lawyers on both sides, citing a reluctance to testify due to fear of potential retribution. Even one of the victims of the shooting appeared reticent during the trial. Mr. Lon, who was wounded in the incident, declined to identify Mr. Holder as the shooter while on the stand. "I don't know nothing, don't see nothing," he said, as reported by news sources. "You don't want to testify about what happened?" a prosecutor asked. "That's right," Mr. Lean replied on February 22, 2023. Nearly 4 years after the shooting, a judge sentenced Mr. Holder to 60 years to life in prison. Mr. Holder received 25 years to life for the murder count, an additional 25 years to life because a firearm was used in the commission of the crime, and 10 years for shooting Mr. Lean and Mr. Villanueva, According to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, even after his death, Nipsey Hussle impact continued to resonate. One person wrote, "Dude done Nip dirty." Not only did he aid or Nip in cold blood, but he came back and kicked Nip in his face. Pure evil. Another one added, "To be fair, Nipsey Hussle was not just a rapper, he was a respected and loved rapper." And Kosos and the other inmates had huge respect and love to Nippy. So dude is definitely getting what's coming to him. His life inspired gang leaders to advocate for peace, leading many to agree to ceasefires and hold summits aimed at reducing violence. Nippy wasn't just a rapper, he was a movement, a visionary, and a symbol of hope for so many.